Blake, has it sunk in now the magnitude of what you and your teammates did on that national worldwide stage against Army?
For sure, I think it's sunk in. Just the joy that I see Navy fans having out there, and people around the school, and really everyone associated with the program. I think it's really been great, and just to really see how much this game means. When especially when you win it. I hadn't been a part of that yet. It's just really been great for everything.
What do you think it's about this offense that's clicking right now? Because it seemed like even when you looked off a play and maybe went to a second option, those were working too.
Yeah, it was really just the energy, I think, and everything that we brought about, feeling slighted and it being the Army Navy game and, just wanting to prove something out there, I think was the biggest thing. Everyone was just, you got guys like Cody Howard who've been battling this entire season, injuries and different things, and he's freaking flying around out there. And, just like seeing those guys move around and do things when they've been banged up, it's just, people wanted it really bad. You could see that on the field.
And how cool is it now to continue to be on a national stage, ending the season against a Power Four team like Oklahoma from the SEC?
Yeah, that's honestly pretty awesome. Just to even been saying, when you're coming to Navy, you aren't expecting that you're going to be playing Oklahoma. If you would have told me that when I committed here, I thought that'd been pretty cool. But everyone, my family thinks it's awesome. All my friends think it's sweet, and I agree. Just to have the opportunity to do something pretty special, I think to end the season out this way is awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Scott.
Eric Bailey from the Tulsa World.
Blake, thanks for your time today, man.
No worries.
Well, I want to ask you, have you got a chance to get a deep dive at Oklahoma's defense yet? If you guys did a lot of scouting again, just your thoughts of them if you have.
Yeah, it's one of the weird things where you try, you try to sort of deep dive into everything they've got, but you don't know. We don't know honestly exactly what they have right now, or at least I don't. With the transfer portal and the draft, and and I've watched them a bunch this year, whether it was Alabama or whoever they were playing, and they're super talented. I always liked watching Stutzman out there on defense, but that's the biggest thing for us is obviously just trying to see who they have out there, the young guys that might be stepping up in different positions, and so very impressed just with Venable's team, with their defense and what they do, and so it's pretty cool.
We had a chance to talk to some of the players earlier this week, and they said when you're playing an option-based offense, you got to teach yourself to do things you've never done before. I just want to ask you, how much fun is it to run that attack?
It's pretty cool, and it levels the playing field, especially with a team like Oklahoma, who they're never going to see the triple option offense in the SEC. They're not recruiting guys in the SEC to run the triple option. So, obviously it's new for them, but to run this offense and to see how explosive it's been this year, just to put people on their heels in different different areas we're trying to attack, it has been really cool. And I think it's bringing a new light to I feel like triple option, it had a negative-ish light around it, just boring and all these different things. But I think what we've done this season has been pretty cool.
It's funny, you're playing an Oklahoma team. A lot of their older fans love the option. That's all you ran back in the day. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again too, because I grew up in that era.
Yeah.
Want to ask you the last question, just about the ability to throw the football. I know you tied a school record with touchdown passes, and how much fun has it been? We just think run, 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 but what's it been like throwing the ball, and how big of a weapon has that been this season for you guys?
Yeah, it's all about just playing complementary football, and having the pass game and the run game play hand in hand. My freshman year we beat UCF without completing one pass. And I don't think there's going to be a game the rest of the my career here or for a while now where we don't complete a pass in a single game. So I just think that it's been a lot of fun to open up the offense and to let our guys sort of work. And like Eli Heidenreich, catching a ball one-on-one in space last week versus Army and going 52 yards to the house. It just sort of shows what our offense has grown and allows people to do this year.
Blake, thanks so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Joe Miller.
Hey, Blake, when you look back at the game, the Army-Navy game, what do you think that 30, 40 years from now, what's the one moment that you'll be thinking about?
Probably that Landon Robinson fake punt. I told him, I said, I I don't know why, but I had a feeling. Usually after I come off the field, I just go and I go right over to the bench to start watching the film. I said, but I had a feeling for some reason, 4th and 4, right around midfield. I said, you know what? I have a feeling this is coming. So I stayed out to watch, actually, right on the sideline. And that was pretty awesome. Him running right at me down the sideline and watching him. Like I said, we'll get the ball security fixed up. Maybe we'll start putting in some packages for him in the backfield.
I was going to ask. I know you're too young to remember the '85 Bears and Refrigerator Perry in the backfield, but maybe an option there if you guys want to look into it going in the future.
Exactly.
How's his hands? Can he catch it?
I'm sure he can do basically everything. So, he can squat a house. He can, sprint as freaking fast as any D tackle in the country can sprint. And, he can run the football. So
When you reflect back on this season and sort of obviously a lot of the talk in August was with Coach Cronic coming in and sort of the new offense and how that would develop all season long. When you look back and over these months and how it's developed, where were your expectations and sort of can you evaluate where you think you guys have been offensively throughout this entire season?
yeah, I think one of the good things we've done this season is, our offense expands and it grows and it changes week to week. We adapt to what the other teams are doing and to what we know and maybe some tendencies that we have and how we can play off of those. And so it's one of those things that you can't really see during spring ball because you're just putting in your base fundamental offense and you're just doing, the basic stuff, run left, run right, jet sweep left, jet sweep right, whatever it is. And finally, once you get into the season, you start game planning and it grows and you start focusing on different things. And so I would say that, we had hints of explosiveness in the offseason, in the spring and even in the fall, but not to the level I think that we've had this season. So I honestly didn't expect it to be this explosive, but I knew we had something special.
Um, Obviously you missed the East Carolina game. When you look back at that, how difficult was that? And did you learn anything out of that? And did it help you kind of sort of refocus for the Army Navy game?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult to have to sit that one out. Didn't want to have to do that. Didn't want to have to miss the rest of the Tulane game, but it was just probably the right decision and just trying to get my body healthy. And, you know, I think watching the sideline, what I learned was, you know, just watching the guys out there do what they do and, the offensive line, how they were blocking and come off the ball. And, I think that ECU game really played a lot into, our confidence and our momentum going into this Army game. And so, I thought that was huge for us. And I could feel it afterwards in practice. There was the different feel after ECU for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because the second half of that game, I know obviously Braxton did a great job. I think you guys were like 6 for 7 in the second half, and then like 5 for 6 on third down to start the Army Navy game. So it was almost like a streak of 11 out of 12 third down. So it seemed like that second half kind of got you guys going in the right direction.
For sure. For sure.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you, Joe.
Robinson is now 3 carries, 87 yards in his career.
Let's go.
Wags.
Blake, first and foremost, I had a lot of Navy fans ask about the patch you wore. Navy fans were wondering why the Navy quarterback's wearing an Army patch. I know that was your grandfather. Can you tell the story about your grandfather and his history, please?
Yeah. So my grandfather was a member of the 82nd Airborne Division. He was my dad's father. Sadly, he passed away before I was ever born, so I never got to meet him. But you hear stories your entire life of how proud he would have been, how similar we are, and all these different things. And so just to honor him, honor my grandmother, all those different things. Just it was bigger than just the Army Navy game. I knew probably some Navy fans would be upset or be like, what is this? But honestly, it was bigger than that for my family and all this. And just wanted to honor all the things that he's done and just his legacy.
Do you know your grandfather's first name?
Al.
And it is Horvath?
Yep, just Al Horvath. Yep.
And is your grandmother still living?
She is. Yep.
And do you expect to continue to wear that patch next? Will you do it again next year? Or?
No, I'll change it again. I'd worn my other grandfather's patch the year before that. He was also in the Army, my sophomore year. Obviously, didn't matter then because I was no good. So, So I wore that one last year.
You were injured?
Yeah, when I was injured, I still had a patch on the sideline. I put that on there in honor of him. So um, then this year, my dad offered my grandfather's patch, and I thought that was a great idea. So that's how we end up hitting with that one. And then next year, I don't know if I have any more relatives, but so we'll see.
So you were asked earlier about the Oklahoma defense, and I know that you all aren't sure who will play, but I think one guy who's definitely playing is Danny Stutzman, the linebacker, who's an All-American. What do you see out of him particularly, and are there any other personnel pieces that you're seeing that you all feel are pretty sure they're going to play and look pretty darn good?
Yeah, I mean Stutzman, obviously he's what I like. I think the most about him is his leadership, watching him out in the field and the things that he's done, and I think what he means to that program, and he's sort of the face of the defense, the voice of the defense. And so, it's, cool to see how they sort of all rally around him. But they really fly around. They all do. And, like we said, we don't know exactly what we're going to see again and all this, but, we know that they're going to be at SEC athletic. We know they're going to have, size and all this. And so we just got to do our fundamentals, be good at what we do and, put them on their heels a little bit.
So I know that it's kind of an odd schedule. You got a couple practices here this week, and then you head home for a few days. What are you going to try to do to stay sharp during the interim before you arrive in Fort Worth?
Yeah, I think, anybody will say this after the Air Force game was the same, but CIC games, they beat you up physically, mentally, emotionally, even after a win, it's just the highest of highs you probably had in emotions all season. And now you gotta come back down. You gotta reset and you got another game to play. And I think that's the biggest thing for us is not, living in the past with the Army game and letting that sort of take over and, caring more about that than the game in front of us. So I think it's taking it one moment at a time and just trying not to be complacent and I would say the biggest thing, when we go home is obviously stay sharp, stay in the game plan, stay in film and all that, but also get healthy. Just trying to, fix some of the bumps and bruises and get really prepared to go play and play fast versus Oklahoma.
Now, I think Coach Newberry said you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 practices in Fort Worth. Is that right?
I believe so. I think it's 23rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Yep. So 4 sounds about right.
Is that, you feel like that's good? Because that's really when you're going to dial in the preparation for the bowl is once you get there in Fort Worth. You feel like that's enough time?
For sure. Yeah. I think we're not reinventing the wheel. Obviously, some people might think that we should, but, I'm not trying to do that here. We're just going to go do our stuff. And, it's just all about executing. So just making sure we can execute. And I think we'll be ready.
So as great as the Army game was, you probably feel like you might have left some points on the board. I think you had that one long run into Army territory where things kind of fizzled. The pitch that went awry, you all were moving the ball well there. Can you talk about, as great as the offense played, you probably could have put up 40 points, don't you think?
For sure. We talked about that as well. We should have, had another touchdown there, called back for a penalty. Just to, chat, he'll admit, he probably shouldn't even block the guy. Eli was already outside of him. And, that the long run that didn't result in anything, that was, on me. Just got to hit the pass there and, we're still driving. And then the pitch, same thing on me. There weren't many times, I think, in the first half where they physically were just like, they out-schemed us on that drive. And, we, hats off to them. It was more us just, not executing, or me not executing those things, and could have, and I left that half 28-7 or whatever would have been at that point. So for sure we were, you can't be disappointed with a win against Army in a CIC championship, but you want to take this and apply it to other games and making sure that in a game like this it doesn't catch up with you.
Going into the game, obviously there was so much focus to talk about Bryson Daly, and deservedly so. He had an incredible season, was the offensive MVP of the American, and was MVP of the championship game. And I think a lot of people thought that's why Army was going to win, because of Bryson Daly and that great offensive line. Did it feel good for you to outplay Bryson Daly in that game?
Yeah, but it wasn't about me. I think our defense took it more personal. All the talk about Bryson Daly. They knew that, like you said, he's a great player, had a great season, but in the Army Navy game, it doesn't matter about the season you've had or anything like that. And I think the defense really just wanted to take it to him. And even, before the game, hearing that they'd won the Joe Moore, I think it just fueled the fire even more, because, just all the things that they wanted to fight for and we wanted to fight for. And, they can have all those awards, we'll take the CIC.
And last for now, the Horvath for Heisman account has been very active since the Army Navy game. Very active. Have you been in touch with him or?
No, of course not. But I laugh. I think it's funny. I watch everybody on Twitter and all that talking their crap right now, and badly so. I think every Navy fan should.
All right, I'll pass it on.
Thanks, Bill.
We'll go back around. Scott Wyckoff.
Hey, Blake, how cool is it going to be next week being down in Texas, being able to just focus on practice, and then when you're done, you kind of are on vacation, kind of a neat way to go into a football game where you can really get after it in practice. But then after that, you don't have to worry about all the obligations of the Naval Academy. You can enjoy yourself with your teammates.
That's the biggest thing, is not worrying about any obligations. It'll feel weird for sure. And, none of us have been a part of a bowl game. So, none of us know how to act, sort of like, shoot, I forget the movie. It's like, what do I do with my hands? I don't know what to do with my hands. It's like that. It's like no one knows what to do because, we've never been there before. So I think we're all really excited just to go down there and get to play some football and, not have to worry about after practice ends, finishing homework or anything like that.
Do you think the game against Notre Dame helped you guys to be ready for a team like this that will have the type of athletes that a Notre Dame team had?
Sure. Yeah, I think knowing too, even in the Notre Dame game, I mean, when we were executing really well. And, we look and there was nothing Notre Dame had done to stop us. And so if anything, it gives us just confidence that, it doesn't matter who's across from us. If we can execute our stuff, we can drive the ball, we can score points. And it's just really all comes down to that, taking care of the ball and not letting a moment get too big. So, yeah.
How big a difference has it been being under center or back in the gun, looking at the defense this year opposed to last year, where the defenses have to be so much more honest with you this year? Have you really noticed that?
Yeah, I feel like last year, especially people were flying downhill. Just makes it really hard to do different things when they have no respect for the passing game, when they're going to play 9 guys on the run, and just 2 corners on the outside. And so, also last year, things were just moving so fast for me, wasn't, understanding what things were doing, like, for example, in the Army Navy game this past week, I knew with 100% certainty that on our backside read option that the safety was going to spin down and try and meet me in the hole. And, I was prepared for it and was able to make a move and, get some yards there. So just being able to experience things and have them slow down and all those different things, it has been, I think, instrumental for me.
And finally, do you think you and your buddies, when you're home for the holidays or the weekend, are going to try to sneak over to the shoe?
Maybe. We'll see. We were talking, Coach Jasper was talking to Coach O'Rourke, so I might have to hook up with him, and he's in town for Tennessee. So that'll be pretty cool.
Great. Good luck.
Thanks, Scott.
I'm just texting with Coach O'Rourke as we speak. Joe Miller.
Yeah, Blake, just one last one for me. I was talking to my son, my 11-year-old son today about getting a chance to talk to you, and he wanted me to ask you, is there any way that you can talk to anybody at EA Sports, because he likes playing you in the video game, to get your ratings higher for next year? Because he said they did you dirty with your ratings this year.
They did. They started me out. I'm obviously a big football fan. Scott knows that because I was just talking to Brad Nessler about how his voice basically shaped my childhood in the NCAA games. So, I started out the year, I think, at like a 73, pretty slow, couldn't throw the ball. They've since gotten me better. I think I'm up to an 85 now, maybe 87 speed. They've got me nice in some areas. Some areas, it's like, maybe some more. Of course, we'd like to see that speed go up, but uh, you can tell your son we're working at it. You just got to keep playing better, and they'll be watching it and they'll bump it up.
I will show this to him, no doubt. Thanks, Blake.
No worries.
Eric Haley.
Blake, I want to ask you, what is your grandfather's name? The patch you wore last year, what's his name?
David Somerville.
How do you spell his last name?
Somerville.
Okay, and I interrupted you. What were you going to say about him?
No, he was I forget exactly what he was in. He was more medical side of things
Okay.
within the Army. He was a vet. He's a veterinarian. He's
Okay.
technically both. So he's a veterinarian now. So he worked more medically with a little bit of that side of things.
Okay. And my last question is, I've asked some of your assistant coaches and your teammates, when you think about Oklahoma football, what comes to mind? I mean, what's your first memory of them, and just your thoughts of Oklahoma through the years? You said you watch college football.
Yeah.
What?
Huge fan. Obviously, I would say when I think of Oklahoma football, first person is Baker Mayfield comes to mind, especially with me. And obviously, I'm from Columbus, as you heard some of them talking about. So him planting the flag in the middle of Ohio Stadium, that was right on my mind that year. But, he's a blast to watch. And sadly, the other memory, I hope I don't bring this up, but the other memory is, of course, versus Boise State, Statue of Liberty, all that. Even though, obviously it didn't turn out Oklahoma's favor, it was a freaking amazing game. And then Adrian Peterson, I mean, he was also my childhood. So that was awesome.
What was it like in Columbus, the flag planting? I mean, we came, covered the game, and left. What was it like living in Columbus and that week after that game?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to kill him. I was like, how can you do that? Now this year everyone's doing it, and I'm like, I don't really care that much.
Blake, thanks so much for your time today, and you have a Merry Christmas, okay?
Thanks, Eric. You too.
Wags.
Do you want the Ohio State coach fired?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know if I can say when. Now being removed from being an Ohio State fan, I can see why every other fan base hates us and hates them. They are very, opinionated. I can tell you that for sure. And
the day of the East Carolina game, I was driving to my son's house in South Carolina after that game. I was listening to Sports Talk Radio, and the guy said, if you lose to Michigan, you could win the national championship, and it wouldn't be enough that they should be fired. Even if you won a national championship, losing to Michigan is worse.
That would definitely, I think it would be enough, obviously, and everyone does. I don't think he's going to get fired, no. But I do know that I just think Ohio State fans have been, I mean, it was probably a little bit like Navy fans during the streak. You're like, they don't even need to put a team out there. You win so many in a row. Now it finally turns into a rivalry again where, it's back and forth a little bit. And, I don't think Ohio State fans know how to act. They're not used to not winning that game. So, it's just frustrating for them. But I think Ryan Day's a great guy, great coach for them. And, he's pumped out a lot of talent. So I think it'll be fun.
So I was going to ask you, what do you think were the keys to this turnaround season for Navy?
One, obviously, I think it was just the performance of the offense. I think we knew what we were going to get out of the defense, no matter what, and what we got out of them last year. And, we knew that they were going to perform and play well and do a lot of great things. And so I think we had to really pick up our side on offense. I was looking back at some of the games we'd won last year. It was like 10-0 versus ECU. You look at that and it's like, how can you score 10 points in a win? That's so impressive from the defense. And, I think finally this year, we put it all together and we had great leadership from the seniors and Daba and Colin and all that. And, just the culture we built in the off season. I think from day one, first day back from our winter break last year, Coach Kuritzy brought us all into the meeting room and played the past 3 years of not scoring within the 5-yard line against Army. And I think that was our motivation all season was we were not going to be 1 yard short ever again or any of that. It's hard to believe that all the offseason of work and all the strength training you put in could lead to you being 6 yards short or not even 6 inches short or 6 feet short versus Army or last year and the years before. So I think that's why when you watch our QB sneaks inside the five, people are so excited because that has been our emphasis all off season, and those pictures are now up in our football facility of us scoring those ones. So
Well, so I was just in Coach Newberry's office talking about this, and he mentioned that there were a lot of parallels to 2019 and this year, in that 2019 he was hired as defensive coordinator and got the defense turned around, and Malcolm Perry emerged as quarterback. Same this year, Drew Cronic was hired as offensive coordinator and got the offense turned around, and you emerged as quarterback. Now, what he doesn't want parallels to is what happened afterwards, because
no,
2019 was just one season turnaround, and then there was more losing. Do you think this is sustainable? Do you think Navy football is on an upswing and can sustain this? I mean, every year is a new year. You got a new senior class. It's going to have to take a leadership role, etc. But you don't want to have what happened in 19, where it's just a 1 year turnaround.
yeah, I will say I do believe that there was a pandemic that played a part in the maybe less than.
Coach Newberry said, he goes, I'm confident there won't be another pandemic, or at least I hope there will be.
Yeah, so that's, I think, the number one goal is hoping that there's not another pandemic, because I think that played a role when you don't tackle anybody until the first game of the season, obviously. But yeah, I think it's all about laying the groundwork, and like you said, you don't want to be a flash in the pan. You want to establish something. You want to, it goes back to the culture and what you build, and making sure that the player-led leadership can carry over. And I think we have a lot of guys that want to do that and can do that, and have stepped up this year, even as juniors and different things. And so I know that we're on the right trajectory, and we're going to do something great next year. But still got Oklahoma.
Coach, what did it mean to you to see the offense perform the way they did through what they've worked so hard this season in that Army Navy game?
It was really awesome. I think we really played well against a good defense team that had been giving up, I think it was 15 points a game and barely over 100 yards rushing a game. And so we beat a good football team, and I think we left a little meat on the bones, honestly. In the first half, there were a couple things we missed. I felt like it should have been 21-7 at the half. And then in the fourth quarter, I'd really like to have that holding call back right there at the end on the touchdown run. But it was a good day. I felt like our offensive line played one of our better games. Obviously, Blake was, he missed a couple of things, but boy, he did a lot of great things, and he was really effective running the ball. And then everybody kind of played their role. Eli, always comes up with a big play. Alex always comes up with a big play. Chad always comes up with a big play. And then I thought Cody Howard really helped us at tight end. He really blocked well. He really did. It was good to have him out there. He was pretty healthy for the game, maybe not 100%, but, pretty healthy. So, and then there were three things we wanted to be able to do in the game that I felt like we'd be able to really separate if we did. It was not turn the ball over, which we didn't. 0 turnovers, and then we got the 3 takeaways, so that's complimentary football, and then we wanted to have explosion plays, which we made our explosion play goal, had 8 of them, and Army hadn't given up a lot of explosion plays, and then Army had been outstanding inside the 5, and we punched it in, both opportunities we had there inside the 5-yard line. So those were the 3 things we really focused on, and we were able to get those things done.
Moving forward now, the challenge of taking on a Power 4 team, Oklahoma, from the SEC. This team each week has really been able to put that game that week in the compartment. Do you think that this challenge is something that the guys are looking forward to?
Absolutely. Now, our guys are just, they finished up finals today. They just beat Army, so this week we've kind of tried to, back off. But we've talked a lot about, hey, on Monday when we get down there, we're practicing today. We need to have a good practice today, but hopefully they can decompress, see their family for a few days, and then I think they'll really be excited about this opportunity to play, one of the storied programs, in the history of college football, and a team that's very talented, obviously, and what a great opportunity for us to, see if we can belong there.
What were your fondest memories of the Peach Bowl and the Outback Bowl that you hope guys can maybe take away from their bowl experience at the Armed Forces Bowl?
Ooh, I can't even remember those. Hold on, let me think. That's a long time ago. Um, yeah, I mean the Peach Bowl was awesome just because I'm from close to Atlanta. When we played against Virginia, I think it was that year, and lost a close game, and then had a big win in the Outback Bowl versus Wisconsin when Ryan Dame was playing running back, and they were humongous. So those were fun. Those were fun for the players, and you want that to be a reward, to go get to do that at the same time. You got to prepare and have an edge and go play at a high level. So you want to be able to get both of those things accomplished.
Though you don't know what the personnel might exactly be, what's impressed you with what you've seen on film from the Oklahoma defense?
I mean, they're just so talented. They're big, they're long, and they can run. And they really play good defense. I think there's been moments maybe where the offense has been inconsistent, but defensively, there's not a game I can turn on and just go, they're good. I mean, they're really good, and I don't think it's many defensive guys that are, sitting this one out. That they're that, and the thing about that is that's kind of a deal. Tell me if you got a kid that's decided to go in the portal, or is sitting it out because they're getting ready to try to go into the draft. Well, then somebody's going to step in there that's going to be really hungry to prove that that they're the same kind of player. So they'll have athletes all over the place. They do a great job schematically, and it'll be a great challenge, but it's going to be awesome.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Eric Bailey from the Tulsa World.
Coach, thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you just your thoughts. You mentioned Oklahoma's defense. Just your thoughts of Brent Venables and just the resume he has, and what do you expect out of Brent Venables' coach team in this game?
Well, obviously, we all know Coach Venables' history, and obviously, he's been an unbelievable defense coordinator, right? And all those years at Clemson, won national championships, had unbelievable defenses. Guys get drafted. I mean, and now as a head coach, obviously, you're still gonna have that flavor because that's what you are. He's a defensive football coach. We obviously it's a great challenge for us. I mean, you're trying to find some kind, you're looking for film that makes sense, right? We watched all the games from this year. You're trying to find maybe something that maybe where somebody might have ran a little bit of option. But their defense coordinator, I think, has been there a year.
Yeah.
And I think he lets him run that defense, and they fly around. I mean, it's a great challenge for us. I mean, against people who really know what they're doing, um, and have very talented players to coach. Uh, but we like I said, I've admired Coach Venables for a long time. He didn't know me from Adam, but we've always admired what he's done, the way he's coached kids. He's been a part of great programs, and it seems like he's a guy that tries to treat people right, and that's important in our business. That's not always the case. I think he's a guy who is one of the good guys in the business.
You mentioned Oklahoma's offensive issues this weekend, or this past year, excuse me. I want to ask you, as an offensive coordinator, how tough would it be if you didn't have your top 5 wide receivers all year? You had an offensive line that banged up all year and a first-year quarterback. Just seemed like the perfect storm for a tough year.
Well, it just depends on who your other guys are, right? Who's your backups, right? Who's stepping in, and at a place like Oklahoma, they got 85 kids on scholarship and probably another 25 kids on a full scholarship because they got NIL. So they have plenty of body, plenty of soldiers. You can't bank on anything. I don't feel sorry for them. They got having talent's not going to be a problem. But obviously, especially the quarterback position, when there's you don't have some continuity there because of injuries or because of different things, that's probably the hardest thing to deal with as a coach, as an offensive coach is that guy because he's so important. But what's going to give for them, especially if we have, whoever we're playing against. Once again, they're wanting to prove something, right? Maybe they're guys who didn't get to play as much during the season, and now they're getting their chance to show people that they firing all centers on all three phases. They'll have kids flying around, and so we've all got our work cut out for us.
My last question is, I wrote a story today about Coach Newberry and his ties to Oklahoma, how he grew up here, was an OU fan. He had some really neat stories. But I want to ask you, just being from Georgia, just your memories of Oklahoma football. What was it like you growing up, and just the history, your favorite moments of Oklahoma football that maybe you recall?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about Oklahoma, I think the buys, right? You think of it during the 80s, back in the day when they were a wishbone team, and I played for Coach Donnan at Georgia, who was the offensive coordinator for Coach Switzer at Oklahoma. So that Coach Donnan back in those days was a wishbone guy, right? Um, so that's what you think about. You think about them playing against Texas, those big games. You think about them playing for national championships. I'm trying to remember did they beat when Stoops was there. I think when he first got there, I can't remember if it was Florida State that they played
Florida
in that
State.
championship game.
Florida
Yeah, it was
State.
Florida State. So that's those are the things that come to my mind. Great history, great tradition, because I grew up, in the 80s as a boy, obviously watching Georgia play, and the great teams. You're watching Oklahoma, you're watching Nebraska, some of those teams out west that were so good, or out in the Midwest. Um, and watching, back then there wasn't a play. I mean, who was going to get into the Orange Bowl? Who was going to, it was that kind of deal, and whoever was playing in the Orange Bowl was probably a team that had a chance to win it all. Whoever was playing the Sugar Bowl, sometimes they got to play each other, sometimes they couldn't, because the Rose Bowl had this certain conferences, the Pac-10 and I guess it was Pac-10 back then, or it's hard to remember, 12-10 and Big Ten. It was always going to be Penn State playing, USC in the road. So that's what you think about growing up is all that, and Oklahoma being in the Orange Bowl a lot, and back then it was the four big bowls, right? Who was going to get into those? The Sugar, the Orange, and the Rose, and I think even then it was the Cotton Bowl at one
Cotton
point.
Bowl,
One of the
yeah.
big ones. So that's what you think about is those things.
Coach, thanks a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Flags.
So, Drew, have you been able to identify what defensive players for Oklahoma are not playing? Are there? You kind of indicated that there are none that are significant that are not going to play.
Well, all you got to go on maybe is what's online, and maybe checking Twitter who's doing this. They'll have a handful of guys defensively, two or three. But then again, they could still play in the bowl. Who knows? I mean, that some coaches have different philosophies about that. So we're getting ready for their best 11. And then whoever's playing is probably going to be about as talented as whatever their best 11 was. So we're probably not harping on that a whole lot, just because they're going to replace whoever was in there with another dude that's 6'5", that's defensive, a defense, if it's it'd be 6'5", 250 and run 4.6, and they're all going to be dudes, so try not to get too much caught up in all that.
One guy I think for sure is going to play is Danny Stutzman, who's an All-American. What do you see out of the linebacker Stutzman?
Which number is he? I go better by jersey numbers. Was he 28? I lost you there.
I stepped away. You're talking about Danny Stutzman?
Yeah, what number is he?
He's 28.
He may be one of those not playing.
Yeah, I don't think he's
but
playing.
he may. And number 28 is a dude. So he's really good. He's a really good player. I don't, like I said, I don't know for sure whether he'll be there or not. But he's impressive on film.
What is Oklahoma doing defensively? I mean, what kind of scheme are they? Are they 4-3, 3-4? I haven't.
Yeah, they're very multiple. They're very multiple. I mean, they have a history of doing a lot of things. They've been primarily an even front, four-man front, that's getting into 4-3 or 4-2-5. But they'll show you some odd stuff. They'll get into some bear defenses. very multiple. They're going to play man coverage. They're going to play zone coverage. They're going to blitz you from all over the place. They're going to stun up front. I mean, it's extremely. It's not. There's some teams that their philosophy are we're going to line up in our base defense and we're going to play good fundamental football. And everybody. And they don't do a lot of things. And there's a lot of great defenses out there like that. Then you have this. This guy's he's gonna show you some different stuff and bring a lot of different things. And there's a lot of great defenses that do that. So their philosophy is a little more wide open, show you some different looks, bring some pressures, mix it up a little bit.
So can you talk about if you can move the ball against this defense, against this personnel, what a confidence boost it could be for your offense going into the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's always you want to go play well, right? You want to go execute, and we can't worry so much about them and who we're playing. We got to worry about us and playing at a high level and executing, which is being fundamentally sound, doing the right things, taking care of the ball. That's what gives us the best chance to win. Now, when you play very talented players, you get exposed more if you don't do things fundamentally sound, if you don't, execute at a high level, if you don't have great focus and play with great effort. So all we can do is worry about us. We need to give the guys a great game plan and give them a chance to go execute that game plan. And then we'll go face off versus this talented team. And if we play poorly, it'll be tough. We got to play really good to give ourselves a chance to move the football. So that's what we'll be harping on with our guys. Just what a great opportunity it is to see how you measure up. And but we have to go play at a high level in order to be successful.
We're going to have another round, right, Strauss?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass it off for now.
Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, did the experience of the Army-Navy game exceed your expectations?
Well, yes. I mean, I guess I knew it was going to be awesome. I just, listen to everybody talk about it, watching on TV for all these years. I've never actually been to one. But then to actually feel it and touch it, it was an amazing experience, how important it is to so many people. The people who are associated with both academies, but not only that, people from all over the place, that this game is such a big deal, I think, for so many people. And then to watch how much it meant to our players. And then, I was just, when we were singing the song there at the end, I just had tears coming down my face. I don't even know how to describe, the how awesome it was to win the game, but just to be involved and to see everything that went with it, and know that all the young men for both those teams, what they do, what the sacrifices that they make, what they do on a daily basis, what's asked of them, and the history of it, and all the folks that have gone before them. It's just a huge deal. So I think until you experience it, you can't really know exactly what you're dealing with. But it was phenomenal. Saturday was a phenomenal day, and the fact that we played so well and got the win made it that much more special. But it means a lot to so many people.
And I know how much it meant for your father for you to be play calling and coordinating in that game. Pretty cool for him to see you doing the same thing against an Oklahoma program that I'm sure that he's spent some time over the years studying the bone and what they've done with the outfit.
I'm getting to do a lot of things I've never done this fall. It's been pretty neat, pretty rewarding. But we're so blessed. We got such great young men, the guys I get to work with every day, and then to be able to go do all this different stuff has really been a blessing for me. So I'm just proud of these guys. And it was awesome. I mean, our defense, gosh, they played lights out. I mean, it was complimentary football. We made a play in special teams that was huge. It just was one of those total team things. And my dad, I got on the phone after the game with him, and he just was beside himself. My mom, same thing. I mean, all the people that follow it. It was just really a special deal.
And finally, have you been lobbying to try to get Landon in your goal line offense?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Divas coaches may, they may go in the jar if I'm able to pull that off, but he could definitely do it. It's been talked about.
Thanks.
Yep.
Eric Bailey.
Coach, I want to go off the beaten path a little bit. It appears Oklahoma got a portal commitment from someone from Arkansas Pine Bluff. As a coach that coached NAIA FCS, can you just talk about how there is talent at those levels that fans and maybe the media just aren't aware of that can make impacts at the higher level if they get a chance?
Sure. I mean, we had players when I was at Reinhardt. They were really good players, and everybody doesn't mature at the same rate, right? People develop, they continue to grow, they continue to work. Some people are just way different at age 20 than they were at 17. It's just and if they get around the right folks and the right weight program, it's just so many variables. And then some guys that you think were a 5-star or whatever, just not don't end up being that all the time, right? So there's a lot of good players at every level. If you're on scholarship starting at a college program somewhere, you're a good football player. And so I understand. I mean, the way it is right now, you're gonna those some of those guys that are great all conference players in Division II football or FCS football, uh, they're gonna get a look now to play at a higher level. It just is what it is. And some of those guys move up and do a great job. But there's also a lot to be said for, man, when something's going well where you are and people are treating you good and you're developing, there's a lot to be said for being where you're at, and not always looking for, because the grass isn't always greener, and you got to make sure you're in the right situation with the right people. But there's a lot of really good players at the smaller college level that can help some of those programs. Absolutely.
This young man started at Arkansas Monticello, the Bull Weevils, I think is their nickname.
Oh yeah, they're
So
in the. Are they still in the? I don't think
the,
they're in the Gulf South anymore. It's Division
they're
Two.
in the Southern, yeah, it was Division II Southern
Yep.
Americans. I can't remember, yeah. So
Yep.
wanted to ask you too, my last question, the throw game, what you guys have been able to do with the passing game. We talk about the option being an equalizer in some games, but it seems like the way you guys throw the football can really keep teams on their heels. Can you talk about just how you've been able to really use that? I know Drew has a school record already, tied a school record for touchdown passes.
It's Blake. Okay, so
Or
Blake's
Blake,
already hit
yeah,
that.
Blake,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Single
Uh,
season. Single season.
okay. Yep. I think it's been, players got to be able to do, schematically what you're asking them to do, and Blake can, and Braxton can. So we're been very blessed. And I think Jackson's going to be a kid who's going to fit in this system, right? So it's really about, a guy being able to do what you're trying to do schematically, and your ability to also develop him into that player. So I think for us, it's not, we don't throw it a ton, right? But I think this season when we look at the numbers, it's maybe around 23, 24% throws, I think is where we're at right now. And then also being in the gun or under center, we may be at least 50% in the gun, so being able to do both. So being multiple, and really for us, I think in some ways you could even argue maybe we're three different offenses kind of hybrided together. So people have to prepare for a lot of things. And I think our ability to execute and throw it over your head, if you're going to give that to us, uh, protects a lot of the things that we do in the run game. And there's been a lot of games where, the safeties, they're not running up as fast as they did 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It used to be they'd come flying up, they had to, or Navy was going to run for 500 yards. All right. So I think it's just the threat of, you've shown on film, you have the ability to do these different things. And then, in the game the other day, we had some opportunities to hit some things and we hit them. We had some other opportunities to hit some things and we missed them a little bit. But I just think it makes you more versatile. People have to cover more things, and it protects your base run game. So it's a lot different for safeties to be lined up at 10 to 12 than coming down, 6 to 8. It's just a huge difference in the way people run support. So I think our ability to show people that we can hit it, we can do some, more pro style concepts at times. We can hurt you with a play action, and then with our RPO game, that's we've been able to have some success there. Hopefully it makes you versatile enough to where people have to cover all those things and and protects your base run game. That's what you hope.
Like you, coach, I was a child of the 80s where I watched OU football run the option. I remember watching games where they flash passing yard stats and just be a flashing zero because they never threw the football. So I'm like you. I remember those days.
Yep.
Coach, thanks for your time, and you have a Merry Christmas, okay?
Same to you guys. Appreciate it.
Wags.
Well, one of the stories I'm writing leading up to the bowl is, I mean, there's been a turnaround season for Navy. And I know you weren't here before, so it's hard to talk about what led to the turnaround. But in your view, since you've arrived, I mean, obviously, when I talked to Coach Newberry and others, they mentioned you as a big reason for the turnaround. But obviously, offense had to improve, and it has. Can you kind of talk about that? Your role in helping this team go from a losing record to a 9-3 season?
Well, you know, I believed when I was hired that we could do that we could get better. And I believed that the things we had done over the years could work here, especially being able to work with Coach Jasper and do, still some of the things they've always done, but just open it up a little bit. So that was what I was excited about that opportunity, and excited about the staff, working with the staff, and I really think though you got to give the credit to the players. I mean, if I had a small hand in helping those guys succeed, man, it makes me feel good. Okay, it makes me feel really good to know, because these guys deserve to win. They deserve success. They deserve to have smiles on their faces after a football game, because it means so much to them. They work so hard and they care about each other and they do so much. I mean, they're just awesome young men. So, I think the things we've done, I mean, I think a lot of it was, uh, I realized that around here you got to beat Army, and you got to beat Air Force. And I think some of the things that we've done schematically, offensively, have helped us in those games. Those two games were really important around here. Um, I think our guys have enjoyed it. I think they bought in. But the bottom line is the players go out and play. They're the ones that put their bodies on the line. They're the ones that have to go out there and execute. They're the ones that have to make decisions and do the right thing out there. And I'm so proud of these young men because they have made such a dramatic improvement. And we're not in a situation where, we develop players. We're not getting a player out of the transfer portal. It's not the same young men bought in and got better. And I think there's a lot of coaches on this offensive staff who've done a great job coaching their players, but more importantly, loving their players and investing and pouring into those guys. So I think the young men trust us on offense, which is huge. Trust is a big deal, and we trust them. And so they've gotten so much better. And two, we've been fortunate that, because we've been a little thin on the offensive line. Well, we've made it through the whole season. We played 12 games, and most of those kids played most of those snaps, right? So we've been able to get through the season. Obviously, Blake got beat up a little bit here and there, but he was able to play in that last game, and Braxton was able to win a game at ECU, and so we've been pretty fortunate. There's been a lot of things go our way, but I'm excited to be here. I hope they'll let me hang around a while. I love being here. I mean, when I look at all the stuff going on in college football, this is such a great place to coach with everything that's going on out there. Uh, it's just a blessing to be here. So I promise this: I'm gonna do everything in my power to try to continue to help the guys grow on offense and get better and keep changing things up. Try to stay ahead of the curve but these young men are the ones who have gone out and made the plays, and won the games. So I'm really proud of them and just proud to be a part of this.
Well, that's what Coach Newberry kind of compared it to 2019, in that year he was a new coordinator who got a unit that wasn't performing up to standard, turned around, and Malcolm Perry emerged as a quarterback. This year, you're the new coordinator, and Blake emerged. In addition to Blake, obviously having a quarterback making plays is critical. But overall, offensively, do you think there's anything in particular Navy did a lot better this year that helped turn around the season?
I think we executed our game plans uh, well. What some games it wasn't as good, obviously, but I think our guys really bought in and believed in what we were doing, and I think we have playmakers, and I think we were able to listen. A quarterback playing at a high level solves a lot of problems. Okay, it solves a whole lot of problems. You can ask it in football, in the game of football, that position, and it's not even fair, really. It's so important that that position plays really well, and if it plays really well, you're going to have a chance every week. Um, and then guys around him, the Heidenreichs, the Teskas, the Chapmans, the Howards, okay, the Kents, they made plays, and then our offensive line. I mean, we dominated the trenches now Saturday. Those kids did a great job. So I think you get a situation where the confidence builds, and maybe that's the area we improve the most. Maybe the word confidence, I think is probably pretty important. I think that's a big deal. Believing in what we're doing, believing you can do it, then you go out and do it, and that just solidifies that confidence, and you can continue to do it. So I think probably the area we improve the most, maybe the areas of just area of confidence and believing in ourselves.
So last for me is, I mean, 2019 was a turnaround season, but it only lasted one season. The next year and three more after were losing seasons for Navy, and the offense did not do what it did in 19 in those years. Do you feel like what's happening is sustainable, and is the program on an upward swing? I mean,
I sure hope so, Wags. I told you I want to be here a while. So I think we can. I mean, um, uh, I, I think we'll continue to recruit as well. I think we'll continue to bring in guys that fit where we want to head, just from a profile standpoint of the different positions, right? I mean, I think what we're doing, I think lends itself well to recruiting. I think opening up a little bit more helps out on the recruiting battle, right? And we have a great product to sell here, so I just feel like we have the right staff in place. We got the right leader in place with Coach Newberry. Uh, Coach Volker and those guys on defense, amazing. Okay, I mean, we have to play complementary football here. So obviously, playing great defense is going to help us play great offense, and vice versa. So I do. I think it's sustainable. Now, there's going to be some teams that really study us this offseason, right? They're going to, once defenses see for, I promise you that Memphis is going to study us really hard this offseason. Okay, I mean, there's going to be a lot of, now that they've seen what we're doing, that's what you do in the offseason. You try to schematically get out ahead of things. So our job is going to be try to stay one step ahead of the curve, from a schematic standpoint, continue to recruit players and develop them. Um, you know, if we continue to have outstanding quarterback play, I think that's going to be critical. So we got to do a great job. But I like the kids that we have in the program right now, and I like the ones that we're recruiting. I just in the administration here, I mean, Chet, winning is important now. He's that's what he wants to win. He wants to win these Commander in Chiefs trophies. Now, don't get it twisted. So I think they will continue to give us the resources. I just think we have a great thing going on here. I think a lot of people wish they coach here. Um, but still, you have to go do that. You have to stay hungry. You got to go to work in the off season. Now that you've had a little bit of success, you got to double down on it. So a lot of it will be about each team's different, right? Every team is different. And so the next year's team, the 25 team, are they going to be willing to sacrifice and do the work and continue to grow? That's going to be very important, how those young men decide what they want. But I love being here. I want to be here, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we're putting these guys in the very best position possible to be successful. I do believe it's sustainable. I think it is.